So good morning, everyone. Very good morning in a Sunday morning. As Jay Bhai rightly said that we are having the two stalwarts. I think, and first of all, actually welcome today's Power BI session. See so many familiar faces as well. I mean, from the last Power BI session as well, and the members I think who has attended some Power BI sessions during the last year with Naveen ji as well. So let me briefly talk about the session. Actually, this session is all about getting back into the Power BI zone. We'll start with a quick refresher as Jaiba is already added because we are going to cover for the 2 hours because 1 hour is very short time. And then we will dive straight into that curated data sheets and the set of that analytical questions that will get you thinking and will give you a 1 week time based on the past learning and some designed to challenge you. Let me talk about our mentors. I would say not the speakers. CA Naveen Bhai Ajmera. So, who many of you already know him during the last year, Rajeshji Somani's tenure for his crisp and clear way of simplifying the Power BI and other trainer CA Mahendra Bhai. You know already. I mean, who has already taken a couple of sessions Power BI in the during the last months as well. So they all both going to walk us through the structure and set up for the best for what is coming to the next week. So welcome to all of you, and welcome to Naveen Bhai and Mahendra Bhai. Thank you so much for taking these sessions and coming forward for the ICI Dubai chapters. And yes, as Jay Bhai said, because I'm getting so many requests that hours is not updated into the systems, and many of the members who have just joined to mark their present during the last couple of minutes or 30 minutes. So I mean, if you are really serious and this is for the learning sessions, so please attend for the 75% of the sessions if you want to get that CP hours credit. So keep your curiosity high, your questions ready, and let this make this most out of this from this interactive sessions of the Power BI. And with that,
Yes, Amit Bhai, I'm here.
uh, okay, you want to say something, Dikshit Bhai? And yes, thanks to Dikshit as well for being a key person for organizing this tech sessions. So thank you so much, Dikshit, and all other committee members as well. Over to you, Dikshit, if you want to share something.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining on a Sunday morning. I think it's a power, as the subject says, Power BI. It's a Power Sunday, so we all look forward to hear from the two powerful speaker and learn from them the tricks and many more things. So nothing much, Amit Bhai. I think we should start the session and let the people learn.
Thank you so much. But yes, a formal few words of wisdom from our chairman. Over to you, Jay Bhai.
Thank you, everyone. Two things which I have to put. I will say this is called Center of Excellence. Again, a new initiative which we are introducing this year. Why I'm saying because Power BI we are doing for last 2 years. Uh, when I was heading a position of secretary, that time we started with all these Power BI sessions very aggressively, and now I guess more Power BI. At least you have started your journey. Now we are coming with a new concept called Center of Excellence, and this is the first one which we have started. And again, if this goes well, we can start for others as well. What is Center of Excellence for me? Center of Excellence is to enhance your knowledge from the after you have started your journey. After you start the journey, you can increase your knowledge only in two ways, right? One, either you learn it or again every day by googling it, by facing new challenges, or you learn from the experience of all us members together. And why can't we learn from the experience of others? How exactly Center of Excellence will work? It will not be a learning session. It will not be a 2 hour sitting session where you will be taught again and again what is Power BI, because every time a challenge which is thrown to you is unique. So we will do the same way of Center of Excellence. A challenge will be thrown to you. Whenever we come up with Center of Excellence, a question will be shared, and management requirement will be shared that management wants to see the dashboard this way or wants to arrive at a decision, and then you will be given a week home to arrive at how exactly it has to be achieved. When you do that, obviously you want affirmation whether you did it or right or not. Then obviously my mentors comes in picture. Mahendra Kiani Saab, Naveen ji will come into picture and tell you what is the best practice, what you did right, what you did wrong. Obviously, they cannot guide all the 100 peoples together. So what will happen? They will tell you the best practice, and then you can connect with them one to one and understand what is right, what is wrong, how you should go about it. For me, learning cannot be done only by seeing it. Learning be done when you are to the challenge. Swimming तब सीखते हो जब आप पानी में उतरते हो. It's time to get into the water now, and that is why we are having this center of excellence. You will see more of this coming, so please get ready for it. This is the first time we are trying center of excellence, and with this, I hand over two best people I know in Power BI, Naveen Ji Ajmera, and over to you. Please take care of my members and do ensure I want more. When I step down in March, I want to see 100 mentors of Power BI in the chapter. Power BI is the next generation Excel. आप एक्सेल को भूल जाइए, पावर बीआई उसको टेक ओवर करेगा ही करेगा, और जब करेगा तो मेरे को चाहिए मेरा इंस्टीट्यूट, मेरा चैप्टर सबसे आगे होना चाहिए. थैंक यू वेरी मच.
Thank you so much, Jay Bhai, for that elaborative about the sessions. And without further ado and delay, just straight to the both the mentors, Naveen Bhai and Mahendra Bhai, over to you. And just before that, I want to acknowledge the presence of our one of committee members, Yuga, as well. Is over to you, Naveen Ji and Mahendra Bhai.
Thank you so much, Jay Bhai, Amit, committee members. It is always pleasure to coming on this platform, and Power BI is my passion, as you all know. So anything for that, I'm always ready. And collaborating with Mahendra, just a small, I met with Mahendra in ICI Abu Dhabi International Seminar a couple of months before or 3 months before. And I forgot that he was one of the attendees in, 7 years back. So I did a training session for KPMG and he was there. So when we met, he said, I was in your training session at that point. I needed to go back to see all those pictures which I usually take. And I found him, he's same enthusiastic learner. And now he's far ahead, So it's good, Mahendra, to connect again with you. And it will be a good session. And I heard from other people who attended your last session. So it is amazing that learning is going on.
And now the mastery, I want 100. I want to see 100 of
You're breaking. JP, can you repeat? We couldn't hear.
There is some connection problem.
Now it's clear, sir.
मैं ये बोल रहा था सर, नवीन जी जो आपने महेंद्र के साथ किया, जैसे महेंद्र को एज अ मेंटर तैयार किया है, I want 100 more Mahendras in the chapter.
Sir, it is so. Let me tell you, I'm not only Mahendra. I've trained almost 2,000 people now. 10 years I'm doing it, right? MCS courses which is still run, and this year again they invited me, so I'm going in this. But what I out of those two people like Mahendra, there might be only 100, 20, 30 I am in touch with who has gone to a different level. So it is not that mentor will mentor you or, a lot of material available nowadays, but it is your willingness to see that what I'm learning and how it is going to improve my life, right? I always relate my Power BI thing to the fitness thing, You start doing something, if consistency is not there, it is not going to help you, right? You do running, you do whatever you do. In a week, 10 days, you get the result, but then you give it up, right? So my simple advice here is that take the lesson, but consistently practice on it and build upon it.
Thank you so much, Naveen Bhai. In fact, I was going to start off, Jai Bhai, for thanking you with two things. One of them, Naveen Bhai already spoke about. So, Jai Bhai rightly said, I mean, this session, for me, I mean, for most of the people, it would be special from one perspective, but for me, it was special from two main reasons with which ICI Dubai and Jai Bhai made it possible. First is the center of excellence. Now, Jai Bhai already covered, but I'll want to re-emphasize something which I personally totally agree is that in this one, we are going to give you a challenge where we are going to give you questions. Now, sessions like Power BI, or for that matter, any technology sessions, or even any tax sessions, or I would say rather any learning sessions, can happen by doing. It is a very new concept, which is learning by doing. Okay, so, and personally, I believe that this is the most effective way of learning. So I wanted to thank Jaiba and ICI Dubai for uh, allowing me to be part of such a unique initiative. So that's first thing, and second thing, which Naveen Bhai already covered. I wanted to again thank ICI Dubai to allow me to collaborate with somebody who started my technology journey. And it was, like Naveen Bhai mentioned, just pre-COVID, I think, in 2019, we had attended that session. And to say how impactful it was, uh, at KPMG, we have a technology practice for my department, okay, and which is so unique. None of the other big fours have it. So this is something I got from that little spark, and I totally relate with ICI Dubai's vision, where they are trying to create that spark for all the members. Now, not everyone would be able to build so much, but I'm sure even if 100 members out of 3,000 are able to do that, it is a very life-changing and big initiative. So, thank you once again, ICI Dubai, Jeb, and the entire XCOM for making this possible. So, really thankful. And it's more for me, it's a nostalgic, more emotional moment to collaborate with Naveen Bhai on this session. So thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
Thank you. So starting off, I think this is how we have divided the session today. What we are going to do is we'll start off with recap of what we learned in May and June. And we have prepared a full Word document as well. So we will take you through the entire recap and share that Word document as well with you. Based on that recap, you can ask questions. We will be open for Q&A. After that, we will open the data set and the challenge. And then after that, in the end, we have Naveen ji, who has prepared a very solid inputs on how well you can solve that challenge. So primarily, these are the 3-4 things we would cover today. And if you allow me, we can start off with the activity. Unless anybody has any questions or would want us to cover something, you can please put it in the chat window, and we would be more than happy to do that. So let me start off with sharing the screen. If you remember, this was the dashboard that we had built in May and June. I'll take you through the entire steps, but this was primarily the dashboard. It was a sales dashboard where we had learned how to create these animated screens. Then it had the sales overview where we had added tool tips or smart narratives to answer questions as to if you go in any month. It used to answer questions on what were the sales for the month, what was the discount, net sales, what was the target for that month, what was the gross margin for that month. We had built this matrix kind of structure. It also enabled you to drill through visual, as well as it gave the summary. We had learned the segmentation analysis. We had created a chatbot within it. We had done the what if, the rankings. We had done the what if analysis as well. So this is broadly what we had covered. Now, what I would do is I have prepared a very small refresher guide, and also what I've done is I have put some material in the Google link, Google Drive link, which I'll show you now. So what I've done is there is a refresher guide, there is a new data set, there is Power BI sessions recording of May, and there are the questions for the current one. What I'll do is I'll share these as well with you in the chat window, so you will have all the resources handy. So what we'll do, we'll refresh the entire thing, and this document would be with you. So you don't need to take screenshots or anything. This entire document would be with you, and which would help you in solving this challenge. Okay. So starting off with Power BI itself. So as you would remember from our last session, Power BI is Microsoft's flagship business analytics BI, which has formed the way analysis or business intelligence works. And primarily, it was a combination of three things. Okay. It included these three key features of Excel, which was basically the Power Query, which is used for ETL layer now, the Power Pivot, which was used for data modeling, and then the Power View, which is used for reporting layer. So this in a nutshell is Power BI, because generally if you look at the comparative tools, none of them have those advanced ability to perform that transformation to it, or heavy transformations to it, or put that heavy pivoting layer. So that kind of makes Power BI very different. It can almost work as a system which can directly connect to your databases, where you can write scripts to enhance or clean up the data, as well as put them in a very good presentation view format. So this is why Power BI is called as a self-service BI. Okay. Now we had started off our learning with understanding the structure of Power BI, how Power BI looks like. So just recapping, what are the key elements of Power BI? So let me show you over here. On the right hand side, this is the report view, which we use the most. Adding all the visualizations like this table or this chart. This is all, this particular canvas is called as your report section, or if I click over here, you can see this part. And whenever we publish the Power BI report, this is the section which would be visible to the users. So this is the first layer of the Power BI screen. The next layer we had learned was the tables view. So once you have loaded the data, and if you want to see where those data is in kind of an Excel sheet kind of a view, you can go to the table view and look at each of those databases, which looks like an Excel sheet. So if I go over here, I'm able to see the table view of the Power BI. The first screen was Power Report view. The second screen was table view. The third most important thing that we had learned was modeling. And modeling layer is the third layer in the Power BI file. So if I go to the left hand side and open the modeling view, this is where my data model was appearing. Now, we had spoken about how well to create a data model, okay? How to bifurcate it in the form of facts table, as well as the dimension fact tables and the dimension table. So these are the dimensions, or has various dimension, like which region this customer belongs to, or product has various dimensions such as size and all, which we had learned. So this entire element is modeling, and model view appears over here. Today I'll revisit the concept of modeling as well, but just to show you where models appear. So this is the third tab of the Power BI, which is the model view. Fourth, which we used a lot, was the fields pane. So let's say, for example, this particular graph or visual, I want to add certain fields. So these are where all my fields remain, and these fields come from the data that has been uploaded on my Power BI. So let me go to a simple one. Let's say, for example, this particular uh, visualization or this particular chart is there. Right now, it is showing me sales target and net sales. So let's say instead of month-wise net sales, I want gross sales. So all the table information is available on this particular screen or fields pane. I can click on gross sales and it would give me the gross sales level data as well. So this is the fields pane. Now, fifth pane, which we have not utilized much during our Power BI journey, was the filters pane, but we will have a question on filters pane today. Okay. If I go to this filters pane, this is where what we can do with filters pane is either for a single Power BI page, like there are multiple pages as you can see, or a single visual, I can apply a certain filter. So if I unselect, it would say filters on the page. If I select a visual, it would say filters on this visual. So I can say that I don't want the whole year data, but I want only 3 months data. So I can apply the filter which would say, let's say I want Jan data, Feb data, and March data only. So this is basically applying data filters to this particular visual. It is possible in Power BI. We had not learned about it, but I'm just showcasing you because today's challenge will have this additional layer. Okay. So this is in a nutshell about the Power BI interface. I'll just pause here in case we have any question. Any questions, you can put it in the chat window and we'll make sure we go through it in today's session. Now, after we had spoken about the 4 stages of data analytics, and this stage, this pretty much remains constant. It comes, I have picked it up from Gartner's Analytics Index. So what are these 4 stages of data analytics? Let me talk you through. So typically data analytics have 2 quadrant. One is difficulty, one is the value that it derives. So typically data analytics is divided into these 4 stages: descriptive, diagnostic, predictive, prescriptive. What it means is descriptive analytics is about what has happened, or let's say if you are looking at the sales data for the last 1 year, how did the sale perform? So it is basically giving you analysis on what happened. So it is decent on information and limited on value. Then diagnostic analytics is going layer above in the analytics. Like, why did it happen? Which means if, let's say, our sales or gross margin was down in Q2, what was the reason for it? So now it is diagnosing the reasons for it. It is the next layer of analytics. The third layer where the value increases further is predictive analytics, which means what will happen. Now, Power BI has certain built-in features to predict next 3 months data. It can be next 3 months sales, gross margin, so on and so forth. And we would have a questions on it as well. We'll give you hints as well on how to solve it. But this is an example of predictive analytics where you are based on your current data set, you are trying to predict what will happen. And finally, we have the best stage, which is the prescriptive analytics, where the value increases maximum, and which means how we can make it happen. Example of it, and we had learned a Power BI visual which can help us do that, is like, let's say if you want to improve your gross margin, what you can do to improve gross margin. And we had used what if feature for it, or what if factors for that stage of analytics. So it is called as prescriptive analytics. Okay. So this is where we had started off our Power BI journey. I will quickly touch upon what are the Power BI features. So we have seen this is the Power BI desktop where all the information appears, your interface. Power BI service where let's say if I publish and in the end of the session we had published our dashboard. If I publish my dashboard, okay, and everybody can see that dashboard through a cloud space. It is called as basically they are able to see that dashboard which was built on my desktop through Power BI service, which is a cloud platform which allows us to share the Power BI. Using Power BI service, we can also build dashboards in a collaborative manner. Power BI mobile is where through your mobile you are accessing the company. There is server as well as Power BI report, mostly used by government entities where let's say they don't want the data to be published even on Microsoft Secure Cloud. They can have a on-prem deployment of Power BI. But most of our focus was, and most of the company's focus is on Power BI desktop service and to an extent on mobile for usages purposes. Okay. Then I want to talk about key pillars to master Power BI. If you remember, um, and all the 4 sessions were designed in a manner that we were focusing on 4 important things. If you remember, first day we were largely focusing on data extraction or data loading, okay, and transforming and little bit of learned a lot on modeling, okay. Third day we created complicated measures, and fourth day we focused on visualization, okay. Now these are the key pillars to master Power BI. So the way module was designed and the problem statement was designed, it was intentional so that we are able to cover all these elements in great detail. So to master Power BI, you should know what data sources it can connect to. So we had looked at multiple data sources. Every day we were reconnecting it by going to a source file. We had learned transformation of talk about Power Query. We spoke a lot about Power Query in the last session. Third, and then we had built complex models. Again, I'll recap what we had learned in that modeling. And finally, the fourth day, we were largely focusing on visualization. So these are the key aspects to master Power BI. And no matter which data set you solve, a good data set would always test your experience on all these 4 elements. Okay. Now I'll pause here in case there are any questions. Okay, there are no new
No question,
questions.
man.
Yeah,
Continue.
cool. Perfect. Okay, now very important thing. This is where we had moved forward. Difference between Power BI desktop and Power Query. Okay, so let me go back to my dashboard that we had built. You would remember that we were using after loading, at the time of loading, we were always transforming data, or whenever we used to come to desktop, we used to go to transform data. And whenever we used to go to transform data, it used to open this screen, the Power Query screen. Okay. And Power Query is the most important. One second, sorry. Yeah. Let me make it full screen. Yeah. Power Query is the most important area. So this was the sales dashboard because this is where the entire, after loading, the entire transformation happens and everything gets stored. So your entire automation layer happens or the transformation layer happens in the Power Query screen. So as you can see, once the data came in, we changed the headers, used merge query as options, everything, all the transformation which gets repeated every time you build a Power BI file happens in Power Query. Okay. So this is where all the automation happens. And Power BI desktop is where we largely do the modeling and visualization. Okay. Suppose Power Query. So if I have to talk or draw analogy, this is where this is the best example I can feel. Power Query is like your kitchen, where all the ingredients, all the information comes in. You chop that information and you prepare it in a manner it is so that it is ready to be served on the dining table. Okay, so Power Query is where all the analysis happens, and Power BI desktop is where the presentation and the modeling of the data would happen. So entire transformation, if you remember, we had spent a lot of time in the Power Query stages. Okay, then let me now recap what we had learned or what. So for that, I'll open the Power Query desktop. So let's look at over here. There are multiple steps that are added. We had renamed some of the columns. We had removed some unnecessary columns. We had done split columns. Why we had splitting of the columns was that we had certain tables. We had the regions table where which city belongs to which particular region. Now we wanted our customer database. So what we had done was we had added that region information in this particular area. And to be able to run a VLOOKUP or a merge query kind of a thing, we had to clean up that data, because if you remember here, there was Mumbai/Maharashtra. So we had created a new column that was basically a custom column. So if you look over here, there was Mumbai, Maharashtra, and we had to add that column, a custom column of Mumbai city. Okay, so this is how we had added by using custom column. Just to recap for you quickly, I'll do it in a different one. So let's take, for example, let me go to a customer table. Here, like say, for example, Primal Fitness is there. Over there, Mumbai, Maharashtra was there. So how we can add custom column? We can just go to add columns. We had done column from examples. We had seen it, Excel also, how we do it. And I selected this particular column. I had done from selection, this particular column. And then I gave an example. Let's say I want just the first line of it. So here I'll pick the first word, which is primal, and then automatically it does everything for us. Okay. I'll cancel it because I don't want to change the data model over here. But this is how we had learned how to create or build custom columns. We had spoken about data types. We had data types was another important element, like customer key. If I go to one, decimal data type is there. For numbers, we were using whole numbers or decimal numbers. For sales figure data type, if you look at it, ABC data type is text, right? For the dates, we had learned data type as the date data type. So these were the data types checks that we had performed. And then we had learned quite a bit on merge queries. So merge query, if you remember, was where we want to bring two tables together. So like in customer table, there was, if I go to, did not have the region's information, like this city belongs to which region. And then we had added the region information. And how we were able to do that? We were able to do that using the merge query as an option, which is kind of a VLOOKUP. And we learned about multiple types of merge queries, and which is very important. So I'll recap that merge queries again. So
And someone requested to share the Google Drive link if you can.
Sure, sure. I'll just share the Google Drive link right away. But I would request you can look at the documents in the end because we don't want, I mean, we are showcasing you the information right now, and in the end, one second, let me but share the Google Drive link. Share, copy link. Let me go to the chat. This is the Google Drive link where all the information is available, including this particular file. Okay, so going back to the chat. Yeah, so these were the type of joins we spoke about, similar to VLOOKUP. So there is left outer join. What it means is that if, let's say, you are running VLOOKUP from the first table, all the matching information from the second table would come in. As you can see, if this is the first table, this is the second table, all the matching information comes in from the left outer join. Okay. Now, right outer join means the same thing except that the second table becomes the full. So left outer join and right outer join are basically depending upon where you want that additional information to come in, but they serve almost the same purpose. Full outer join is where all the information from both table comes in. Inner join is where only the common information comes in. And to help about this particular link, which shows through a practical dashboard, a simple dashboard, which is built by SQL JSON. I don't take any credit for this data, but he had built it, and it's a very interesting one to understand the join. See, table A has this for information, table B has this for information, and we wanted email IDs to come in. If I choose left outer join, you would say everything from the table A is there and the matching information from table B is there. Now, the only challenge is, see, table B, A has customer ID for 2 times, and they have customer ID for 2 times in terms of different emails. So you would see 4 is repeating multiple times. First time Angelina Jolie and the 2 email IDs, and Jen Aniston's and 2 email IDs. So this is left outer join. Right outer join does the same thing except that this becomes the primary table and this becomes the secondary table. Inner join is where the common elements come in. So if you see here, there is 2 and 4 customer IDs which are common. So you would see only 2 and 4 and all the possible combinations along the same. And full outer join is exact where everything comes in. Left anti-join is basically where you are saying only the matching information from here comes in, or the missing information comes in. So it is used for missing information identification. Right anti-join is for the next table missing information, and full anti-join is basically the complete missing information. So this is basically the joins theory, and merge theory was which we had discussed in greater details last time, because this was one very important component. Then we had learned these different type of visualizations. I will talk about one visualization in detail because you would need that for solving the questions. So this is where all the visualizations are appearing, and we had learned a lot of visualizations. These are cards. This visualization is basically your area chart. This is matrix. Segmentation analysis, we had learned decomposition tree. I will quickly show you how to build a decomposition tree again. So decomposition tree, first let me explain you what it is. It has AI-based built-in features where, let's say, if I want to see gross margin and want to know what is contributing to lower gross margin, it automatically identifies the variable. So like it has identified June was the one because of which my gross margin was lower. because we sold isolate whey protein at a heavy loss. Okay, so this is a segmentation tree. Now I would show you how to build segmentation tree. So segmentation tree is available in insert as well, named as decomposition tree, or you can find the same over here in the visualization tab also. When I click on it, you need to give it two informations for this. It asks analyze what and explain by what. So I wanted to analyze in this case was basically why was my gross margin lower. So I selected gross margin and explain my by what I thought is any particular customer causing me losses. So I had selected, let's say, a customer, or is there any particular region which is not profitable? To I'd select a region, any particular state or any particular month where the performance was not good. So this is how I'd selected, and it's easy to build. So this is how we build the segmentation analysis. Pretty simple, and there might be a question, hence I wanted to cover it in greater detail. So this is basically visualization. I'll just see, there are a few questions. I mean, lookup and data both can be done through merge queries and table, or is there a difference between both? So yeah, that's a very good question, Moez. Like, is there a and that would get answered. Just give me 2 minutes. When we go to modeling, Moez, your question would get answered. Other than that, what coding language is used in Power BI? So, Kunjan, you would remember Power BI is a drag and drop tool which uses M language. So, primarily, the entire coding happens in M language over here. DAX is basically data analysis expressions, which is like very similar to Excel, where you can use those functions to perform those transformations. And these are the two primarily things happen. Most of the activities can happen through DAX, but in terms of inside how it is creating those activities based on the drag and drops that you are doing. So it is basically M. So now moving to implicit versus explicit measures. So you would remember implicit measures were these. So if I go back over here and or if I open my desktop and if I go to my screen, let me go to any particular summary. Yeah. So implicit measure is which is auto calculated in Power BI. So if you do any function like sales, okay, you are order quantity and standard, which means I can directly drop this field in values section, okay, and it would give me options such as sum, average, these measures that we had created. Let's say net sales, okay. So we had created, let me start off with gross sales actually. Gross sales we had created using a row context, but this is how gross sales we had created, where we were seeing unit price of a particular product multiplied by the order quantity of that particular sales amount. So these are explicit measures. Typically, explicit measures are always preferred for modeling because you can reference them to different formulas. As you were saying, when I go to net sales, gross sales and discount is a different measure, but I have referenced it, as well as you can use it more easily. Because implicit measures, if I go to any particular area, let me show you by example. If I open a simple card and put a implicit measure over here, which is basically any, let's say over here. Now, standard cost, sum of standard cost does not make sense because it was standard cost for item. We had to see how many quantities produced at that. Okay. So it has very limited functions, which is it can apply in a singular context only. And these are the limited things it can auto calculate. So most of the time you would end up creating explicit measures. So yeah, so this is what we had done. Then we had learned about gross margin. So if you remember the data set that we had last time, we had order quantity, we had the sale value for that particular order or for that particular item. Now, when I sum it, this is the aggregation feature of Power BI where it by default sums up everything. Okay, so when I was using the sum function, it was taking sum of the entire column of what is the unit price for that particular product and order quantity, which was giving a very high number. And we wanted a row context where it picks up what was the unit price of this particular item sold and how many quantities sold, and we wanted it to go at a row level and multiply it. And for that we had used a function which was called as sumx function, okay, which gives me a row context, or it was going at a row level and multiplying the same. So this is something we had learned over there. Then we had spoken about some data optimization techniques. I'll be mindful, I have 10 minutes to wrap up this summary, and then hand be a little faster now. Then we had spoken about data optimization. So we have the columns for this also. And the same thing, we were able to do it using measures as well, using this particular formula. But you would remember whenever we create a column in the model, it was increasing the file size. Okay. So we were avoiding creating calculated columns unless absolutely necessary. And we were trying to use this, and all these measures we can find, or understanding where we can find all the measures for the for Power BI. We went to a guide which was DAX.guys, and also shared learners from Microsoft. So if you go to DAX guide, you will be able to find so it is also explained over here. So these are the categories of the formulas, and I had shared with your guide. Same thing is also available on the Microsoft Learning platform, all the formulas with examples. So it allows you to look at any particular formula, understand how to use it, and so on and so forth. So this is what we had learned. Then we had learned how to create a date table. Okay, segmentations I covered. Uh, Before I go to date table, for simplifying our model, we had learned how to store all our measures. So as you are able to see over here, all our measures are saved over here. There are sales and return measures, and there are measures for simulation. How I had done that? Two ways. First was I could go to enter data, move to modeling, and push all the measures under here and remove the first line from that. So I created a new table so that all the measures can be over here, because most of the time measures are what we use in visuals, and it is easier if they are clubbed at the same place. Okay. And I have shared the recording links as well, how to do step by step. If you go to the Google Drive, there are past sessions recordings available on this one. So you can go to the then we spoke about decomposition tree. I had spoken about themes and designs as well, which is basically available over here. If I go to view, I can use any of these themes to make my Power BI look better. I can import more themes by going to the theme gallery of Power BI, and various users would have created very good looking themes which you can build up. So we had spoken about that. Um, for comparing sales and targets, we looked to visuals, which I already spoke about. Now, data relationships, and Moise was asking the similar question on, do we use the modeling for it? Okay. Now, let's just spend a minute quickly. So, see, this is a question of normalization versus denormalization. So this is typically how your ERP system or your online transaction processing system would look like. Okay. So in this, what happens is, let me increase the size of it. If you see, there are master tables and then there are data tables. Okay. So let's say, for example, for HR related information, all the master table would mean what is the employee ID, what is its salary, and transaction data would mean month-wise salary processing. Same for the sales table. What are my products? Which product code specifies what are its dimensions? Okay. This is a completely normalized table where you are not repeating information. The advantage of it is your model is becoming complex, but it is also becoming more effective or efficient. That is, the data storage is getting minimized. Denormalization is a process where you bring certain variables or dimensions of to the main fact table only. For data analytics, typically we don't build OLTP kind of a structure. We denormalize some of the databases to build this kind of a schema, which is called as the star schema. What does the star schema means? Like in our sales database, if you remember, we had products. So all the product information, we had stored it in the product base. We had stored all this customer information in that, and then there was sales table in the middle. Okay. And sales table included only product ID, sales ID. Okay. To help you visualize this better, if I go back to my modeling tab, you see all your dimensions are on the top and your facts are over here. So it is classic example of a star schema, which is what you should always try to achieve. Okay. So yeah, and then I would skip few things. Conditional formattings we had learned. Smart narratives, while it is important, but Naveen ji is going to cover anyway, so I'll skip that. And another important thing is what if scenarios, which is for the data modeling piece. So you would remember how we created this simulation model, or let me go back to the main screen. So this simulation model allowed us to see if I if I give 5%, 16% discount, and if it leads to a 20% increase in sale or higher sales, how does my simulated gross margin, how does my simulated net sales look like? So it allows you to simulate scenario. If I go give this much discount and sales increases by this much, is it profitable for me or not? So how we did that? We used modeling, and we had done it using the parameters. Okay, field. We had used numeric range parameters for it, and this is also going to be one of the questions that you would need to solve. So this is what we had learned. We had learned about drill through analysis. Naveen ji is going to cover it, so I'll be quick on it. And some of the best practices, I would say, keep relationships as one to many only, where one is your dimensions and many is your facts, or where the sales data or those kind of information comes in. For learning resources, I have created all the past video links. We have shared another very useful element is the Power BI documentation itself. So those are some of the very good things. So this is what we wanted to cover. I'll hold for a few minutes if you have any questions, and then I will show the data sets, and Naveen ji will show you some of the best practices. So I'm going back. So Naveen ji has already answered most of the questions, I believe.
Yeah, I think, Mahendra, the questions mostly, and I know for sure, most of the user who uses Power BI without much getting into the best practices and some technical aspect of it, which training session like this would not cover for sure. But as they grow in their learning, using the tool, facing those problems, either getting those answers from expert, learning themselves by Googling or ChatGPT or whatever the resources they have. Uh, so these are most of the question I saw are based on that. And in fact, in my session or presentation, I'll be covering some of these.
Yeah. So quickly then, Navinji, I'll show them the question set for the new one and then I'll hand
Yes.
it over to you. So I'll
Yes.
be quick because I know I was supposed to be close at 12. So I'll
No,
just,
we have maybe 10 minutes and I'll be having enough time, 35 minutes. And
sure. But I'll try to be as quick as possible. I'll try
no,
to be very quick. So now I'll show you quickly the data set. I'll share the link of the Google Drive again. So two things we wanted to show you. First was the data set itself for the challenge, and then what are the questions. So this is the data set. Now, I have taken the entire effort to make sure that this is generated, simulated through AI. So you will not find answers through Google. And I would request you also try to solve it on your own because this is something which you would learn, or this would help you in learning better. So if we have taken so much effort, you also take effort in solving this. So these are the various elements in the data set. So first is your revenue data, which gives you the date of sale. There are three products, A, B, C. They are operating in three regions, UAE, Qatar, and KSA. They are selling through online and retail platform, and then there is each sale transactions ID. Then there is expenses for the particular area. Again, there is month-wise expenses. There are four departments, IT, marketing, operations, and sale. Then you have expense type, which is CapEx and OpEx, and then amounts are available. This is the expense budget. As you can see, this is CapEx and OpEx, and this is the department-wise budget, and month-wise budget is available. Okay. And then I have given master data, which basically is self-explanatory. Revenue is linked to your income, OpEx is an expense type, capital expenditure X type. Okay. There are department heads or business owners for each of those departments. Now, first stage, before you start even solving the question, you will have to do some data modeling, okay, where you are able to make connections to the data sets. And as you can see, some of the connections that are available is this expense department and budgeting is separate. Okay. So you will have to identify a common field which links your department and type of expense, and you are able to bring the budget versus actual over here. So this is a classic example of merge queries that you would use. Then you have masters. So whether this particular category is OpEx or CapEx, you can cover there. Then there is department level information that is available, and business owners you can bring in from here. Same again, there is revenue related information which works on a standalone basis. Last time also you would see that in the original set we had learned as well, we had not there was no date table available. We had created date table using calendar auto function. I was not able to cover it, the revise it over here, but if you look at the Word document that is shared, it has the way how to create a date table and then connect it to various variables. So you will have to clean up the data, model it, and once you have done it, these are the 10 questions you have to answer. Each question has certain hints which would make it easier for you to do that. The first is basically revenue trend over the past 12 months by product line. These are some of the visualizations, line and clustered column chart or line chart you can use. This is the table that you can use. These are the areas or fields within the table that you can use: month, product, revenue. Okay. The second question is highlight departments that exceeded the expense budget by more than 10%. You will have to create few measures, including actual spend, budgeted amount, variance percentage, and you will have to use conditional formatting to highlight these. And some of the suggested visualizations for it are matrix table as well as or a simple table with conditional formatting. The third question would be, how does each department's capex and opex and capex varies by month on month? This is showing, giving you the hints as to what you can plot on various axes. Okay. Some of the suggested visualization techniques for the same. Then it is asked, this is the fourth question is, which products are generating the most revenues? Again, it is giving you some of the suggestions on visuals, which is bar chart or the matrix with conditional formatting, and which columns or fields you can use. Fifth question is on the what if analysis or the simulations or the modeling tab. And it is explaining that you will have to use a what if parameter. So we are saying that if there is a 5% increase in operational cost, how would impact my gross profit? Again, some of the suggested visualizations for it. Sixth question is, what are the key factors driving total revenue across different regions, product and channels? You can do it using decomposition tree. I have given you some of the hints that these are some of the areas that you can use. Very simple questions. Now you would notice that question 1 to 6 is something which we had learned in our previous masterclass. So you should be able to solve it with fair ease by looking at the reference documents, looking at the past recordings. It is not very complex, but it would help you practice better and get better. Now 7th to 10th, none of it we had directly learned. We had understood the foundational concepts, and you will have to push your bar a little higher to solve it. Okay, but I have given few clues in our revision class today. 7th was which two products contributed to the most revenues in Q2, that is April to June. You will have to use the filters pane. We had not learned filters pane last time, but in today's session, I had explained how to use filters pane. Then there is a waterfall chart to arrive at from gross revenue to gross profit. Okay, you will have to create a bridge table and a switch measure. I have not taught switch measure in my class, but in the DAX guide, there is guidance on how to use a switch measure, and waterfall chart was also something which was unique. Third question is, use the built-in analytics feature to forecast next quarter's revenue. I have given hint over here how you can use it. Line chart has that feature within analytics pane, but you will have to do some self-searching to be able to build a prediction for next quarter revenue. So there is 2024 revenue. You have to predict 2025 revenue using a line chart, which has the analytics feature. And 10th is again, if you solve the 8th question correctly, 10th also you would be able to solve. You have to create a toggle where you can see your gross margin based on actual OPEX and budgeted OPEX. So that happens many times. You want to see, okay, if we would have spent at a budgeted amount, what would be my gross margin? At actual, what is my gross margin looking like? So you have to create a measure which allows you doing that. It can be done using a switch measure. If you solve the 8th one, you would be able to solve the 10th one as well. So these are the questions. Again, going back to my Google Drive link to show you where these questions are. So sessions recording in this file, revision guide that I showed you in this file, these are where all the questions are there, and data set is over here. I will copy paste this link all over again in the chat window so everyone is able to access this. Okay. So yeah, Word doc is also there. I mean, it is a PDF one, but that is also available over there. Yeah. So back to you, Naveen ji, and I'm personally very excited that how all of you solve this. I genuinely hope you are able to do amazingly well, because like Naveen ji said, one of his proud moment is when his students do very well. Same goes for me as well. So over to you, Naveen ji.
Thank you, Mahendra. It was, nice presentation as well as the past learning, the brief summary of past sessions learning. Yeah, I believe, the way you covered almost all the aspect as a beginner who wants to learn Power BI, or even some of the user who are already doing Power BI for quite some time, but still they don't follow some of the best practices or some of the features which is being added. Some of them are recently, some of them are like in last couple of years. So the Power BI evolved in last, I'm doing it now for 10 years, but it evolved in, I believe, post-COVID till 22, 23. It evolved very heavy. So yeah, it is a good presentation, Mahendra, and I hope people understood the overall concept. It is more of a revenue dashboard based on the data, and which is kind of a for almost every training session, people use these kind of data set to make learning simpler, easier, and at the same time, most of the user related, irrespective which function, field, industry they are from. Revenue dashboard is the one most widely requirement on any organization, in any organization, right? What I will continue with Mahendra's session, focusing more on many of the practical aspects, because I usually do the large projects. When I say large projects, means connecting data sources directly from the systems, can be Oracle, SAP, Dynamic 365, SAYS, or any databases system, or Azure if the databases are there. And certainly in most of my project, the Excel documents also come into the picture, but to a smaller extent. Let's say budget is not being maintained on system. So people maintain budget on Excel sheets, and some external data which come from other sources that also being maintained on Excel. The only disadvantage I see, or rather, because you guys, if you are already doing Power BI in your organization, or even if you are learning, just keep in mind the Excel data is more of an unstructured data, right? Somewhere the manual intervention happen, even when uploading system into Excel, usually those Excel files are being manipulated. I would not use word manipulated, but some changes being made there, right? And that changes are very difficult to keep track on, right? You might change data structure, you might change column names, you might change few other things, and you might forget to remove some duplicates, remove rows, blank rows, rows on the top, rows at the bottom, and that all create a problem when you are trying to do 100% automation on your Excel to Power BI report automation, right? So considering all this, that is my experience of last 7, 8 years. Now I'm doing my consulting work as well, and I see these problem keep coming. And in one of the query on the chat box, I think Sangram, he put a query that 5 year sales data 120 GB file. I had a good laugh and smile as well. Uh, I don't know how the data structure is, but even 5 years data and number of rows, if you're maintaining in Excel, still fine. But you need to learn a little bit, good practices on Power Query, how to connect So those are the things which come with experience and better, more learning, and so let me share my screen where I'll be covering a presentation as well as what I'm trying to link it with the exercise is being given to you, as well as a demo of my actual work, the name of the company being anonymized there, and even data is being right. So that will give you an idea that how the report should look like. Even the exercise which you are going to do in next 1 week and coming with your presentation or a solution next week, would like to see some, creative work or some really good work as a report presenter. See, you all are report presenter, right? In a sense, data analyst, as well as you are the responsible person in your organization going to the major stakeholder and explaining them that what has happened through these dashboard or report. Even on Excel, if you are doing it, you are the one who put on Excel report and then you do PPT presentation and all that, right? Copy pasting from Excel to PPT presentation, that can be completely eliminated when you do Power BI presentation. So I'll keeping that aspect in mind. My presentation is more focused on practical aspect, that how the report should look like, what are the best practices you should follow along the way while learning and doing it. I'm sharing my screen now. One second. Okay. So as I was saying, Power BI reports should drive some sort of a decision. It is not just the report, not just the number, right? Mostly the report, when I see people, especially the new learner or, not that experience in presentation and all that, they will put all sort of charts, graphs, but basically the report should drive some sort of a decision making. That's most of the report lag behind in that particular aspect. So I'll share some of the tips, and even I learn during these years, learning on Power BI, learning new tricks, tips, and that experience now translate into my work. So why I'm here today, you already know about it. You already learned Power BI or learning Power BI. With my experience on Power BI over a decade now, so those not only the technical aspect, but on the other side, the business aspect of that, how the stakeholder want to see your reports and numbers, and what, in Power BI, consumers are not only the major shareholders or stakeholders or the owners, but there are other users. Let's say in a sales department, even a salesperson have access to the Power BI report, and he goes to the transactional level data or whatever other data he might want to see. Whereas review and executive summary sort of a report. So keeping those in mind, you need to prepare your report. It is not just you preparing the report, you understand that the way you are doing it. No, that is not the right way. To whom you are presenting it, who are the end user of these reports, you build keeping them in mind that they will understand all this. So Mahendra already covered all these aspects. These are the 4 pillars. So the data, right? Until your data is good enough, you will not be able to get to the last level, that good reports, right? So, and data is not always good, especially coming from unstructured sources like Excel or CSV files, right? So that is your raw data, and use using data cleansing, and that's what you learned while Mahendra was presenting you the previous session's exercise file. I saw there are a lot of steps being done on Power Query. So let me jump to same time onto the Power Query window as well. Oops. Oh, no. So this is how your Power Query window looks like, right? Which you have already learned and most of you are familiar with it. Couple of things which I want to answer it here in terms of the question being asked, as well as a best practice, that what you should do while working on Power Query. Currently, there are not much transformation, but assuming you will have certain transformation on Power Query while doing this exercise. Now, what happens is when you click a user interface button to change the type, promote the header, remove duplicate, remove rows, adding a new column, all that you have learned, it creates steps. And these steps are changed by default. It will be the name given by the Power BI, Power Query M language. So change type because you change the data type. But when the steps get repeated, it says change type 1, change type 2, or likewise, right? What I would suggest, or I would highly recommend that you start doing this from the day one. Always rename these more meaningful name. So let's say here I say data type change, right? Not only that, on the right click, you find a properties there. What does that mean? That why did you do this step? Some sort of explanation here. So all data type being changed based on report requirement, right? Or whatever meaningful commentary you want to see that why you are doing this, right? And that become a comment here, which you can hover around and read it, right? So what happens is tomorrow when you come to revisit this particular file, you know that you have made certain changes and you want to rework on this, you will understand it better. Otherwise, those 20 steps, 30 steps will become a headache for you to maintain it for the future, right? So these are few things you should keep in mind. The other thing is, as a best practice, you should always have a step which reduces the number of rows in your raw data. So if you want to do, let's say, filter on this particular data for whatever reason, you bring in all the data of all the department, but you are just preparing for one particular department, let's say marketing. So we'll do a filter here, right? So that filter step should go first. First means after these steps. So you can say, okay, filter marketing, and it will create a step there. So what will happen is the subsequent steps, which will run your query on a smaller set of a data, and the refresh would be faster, right? So that's another approach you can take. The third thing, the data type, data profile, and looking. So let's say you brought in the data in Excel, right? Currently, you're seeing these two window below there, column statistics and value distribution. How do you get this? Go to the view tab and switch on all these column quality, column distribution, column profile. It allows you to read the data quality, that what are the data here, how many empty rows, how many duplicated rows, or whatever, the column profile and the overall data profiling you are getting it. So this is a good tool to have, or good have in each bringing data first time, right? So this is another good practice you should follow. The third thing, again, coming to the Sangram's query where he says 120 GB file for last 5 years, one day to refresh. I'm very surprised to hear that. I don't know how one day the Power BI desktop keep it open and it work. But to answer your question, the other good practice is on those sort of a large query or even small query where you know that this data is not going to change, you should right click and see here there are a button called include in report refresh. Just uncheck that. So historical data, let's say last year data, now you don't need that to refresh. It is not going to change. So uncheck that. That means the link is there, but the data will not refresh, right? So these are the few things I just wanted to quickly cover on as far as best practices are concerned on Power BI. Now, the next thing I want to cover on this is, as we covered almost all these things, the naming of the your columns. It should be user-friendly name rather than names coming from your systems and reports. 1 second. Right, eliminate unnecessary column, that to optimize your overall report performances as well. When I say unnecessary column means, Sangram, just check in your sales data file. There might be 30 column, and out of those 30 column, maybe 5, 10, you might not be using at all for any report or any analysis. Remove them from this, not from the source, but in Power Query, so it will become faster. Or I would suggest don't bring it in Power Query as well. Data type is the most important aspect, which should be usually the last step of your query, because when you're changing the data type, it take a little more time than other steps. So always do it the last step unless it is required in the middle, like you're doing merge query and all that, where you require it need to be done previously. Data model, again, Mahendra spoke about the star schema, right? I will give you a view of this desktop file again. So if you look at the data model view, what I would suggest that keep this view as, good looking rather than, kind of a mixed up, depending on the number of tables you would have in your model and the number of relations, in a manner that what is filtering what. It is easy to understand that revenue data is being filtered by the date table, budget data is also being filtered by, then you have GL master, which is filtering the budget data table likewise, right? So keeping in an organized way, this particular data query view, when you start writing more advanced DAX formulas, it will help you that what is the connection, what are the relationship, and easy to understand and explain it further if you want to, right? So that's another best practice you should follow. Then I jump to the presentation again. Date tables you already have in your model, the exercise which is being given. Hide those columns which is not required in report views. So that's another thing which you can do. Now, DAX measures. So you will write DAX measures and you will learn the basic DAX measures. So always do, like the base measures. Normally I call it base measure. Let's say you are doing a financial report with chart of account and trial balance. Your base measure is a trial balance net amount, right? Debit minus credit or credit minus debit. That become a base measure. Always create that base measure. And on top of base measure, then you are creating a revenue or, asset account or whatever other measure. So base measure, and I think Mahendra mentioned about implicit and explicit measure. So never use drag and drop the columns. Always create measure. A simple measure like this will help you in a big way in terms of, the formatting of the presentation as well. That helps. And then building on top of this particular base measure, another measure, that will help you as well. Then there is a thing called variable, which is, if you have a long formula, and I know many of you in Excel, you write long Excel formulas. In Power BI, you have something called variable. You can break down the formulas in multiple parts. So if you're seeing in this presentation, the first variable say sales, which is total sales. The second variable says cost of goods sold, which is total cost of, and then return. What is my ask is gross margin percentage. So divided the function, I'm saying sales minus COGS, which is gross margin, and divided by sales. So it is easy to understand, easy to write rather than writing everything in one go. right? So this is another practice you should follow. Again, comment your DAX, just like in Power Query, I mentioned that you should write those properties on each of the step. Similar way in the DAX major, you should put those comments or explanation, whatever is explanatory in terms of looking at those DAX major in future, right? So these are some of the practices you should follow. Then report design. Now, presenting your financial statement, it is like presenting your, when the number, it should not be, it should be easily readable. The first and utmost importance you should give is that every visual in the report is readable in a good way. The moment I open the dashboard, it should be readable. What I see normally when people start new, they try to put in as many visuals in a single page. You should never do that. You should never clutter. There are different techniques to make your report, on different pages, and still single click and you will be able to see those other reports or other pages as well. So never cluttered your visualization in terms of, the number of visuals in single page. Design with the end user decision in mind. As I mentioned, you might have the same report being used by different end users, from top level executives to the, your subordinates or staff who does day-to-day transaction and analyze day-to-day transaction. So there are two different species of people who understand things differently or who require things differently, right? So keeping them in mind. And then trend chart and all that, again, in the exercise, Mahendra has elaborated all those, that there are some charts, line charts, or whatever visual you want to create. So trend, showing those trends with supporting details. Then you should have a consistency in design element. What I mean by that, the colors, right? Even the background and few other things, the design and all that should have, like on one page, you are giving some colors, and other page for the same thing you are giving. So if you're defining category in a particular color, those colors should go, category colors should go in each of other pages as well, wherever the category comes, right? So it helps people understand and get used to those color design aspect of your Power BI dashboards, right? And then always provide context. What does that mean? That when you're making a comparison or variances, means these are the contexts you should provide. So you say, my revenue is 10 million, YTD revenue. Good enough, YTD revenue 10 million, but what do you want to say there? Either you will say that last year we had a 9 million and this year we had a 11% increase, or budget we have 12 million and we are 15% down or something, or if you're comparing it something else. So always create those sort of a comparison, especially on the financial report. These are very important to have that. Now, having all this, if I summarize all those in that, what we have so far discussed, clarify your purpose. That report is meant for what, right? If the report is a AR receivable aging report, then it should give those numbers or KPI which is relevant to understand that how my receivables are doing, right? Then narrative. This is another important part, and it misses. I see it misses in most of the report people create. What does that mean? That when you're presenting, you narrate that story. But some of the narrative, if you can put that in a dynamic way on Power BI report itself, it make the viewers or consumers' life easier to understand. Some of them will see the chart, but then your commentary might help them to understand that better. So narrative always helps that. And I'm going to give you a demo which will cover all these aspects, what I'm trying to explain here. Simplify. Don't overcomplicate the report. As I said, don't put many visuals on the same page. Same time, don't use many typical kind of a visualization. There are many custom visualization. You see someone else report and you try to replicate that. Don't do that. It is easy to understand when the reports are simple. Provide context. I already mentioned about that. Use appropriate visuals. When you're showing a trend on either use a line chart, column charts, or these kind of charts with the time on the x-axis, right? That is also unique understanding of which visualization is good for what purpose, right? I see people mix many visualization and that doesn't give any solve any problem or give any purpose of that. And then the best part of the report should be, or it should be ultimate goals of yours, that if something has happened, as Mahendra said, four kind of a different analytics. So something has happened, why it has happened, and what should be done. If it is not good, it should not repeat. So that next step should somewhere come into picture on your report. I know that it is little difficult on Power BI because it is not predictive, or the forecast and those things are little difficult, but with some advanced techniques, it is still doable. Then enable self-service. So you guys are going to create certain reports, right? Let's say you are the one who is developing the report. I would suggest, and I'm in favor of this data democratization term, which is widely being used nowadays. So basically, you keep all those what you create for yourself. Somewhere people have a habit, oh, why should I tell other people how did I do that? And never do that. Your report, how did you create what you created for? Share it with others, right? Especially your subordinates who are going to help you. Teach them as well that this is the tool, or this is how I learned. You can learn that as well, which will help you reduce your burden, right? Otherwise, if you're keeping everything to yourself, even the salespeople, when you're giving the revenue dashboard, show them how they can create their own reports, because major work is being done as a developer or as an advanced user by yourself or someone else. Now the responsibility need to be given. This is a self-service tool. This will reduce your headache when people ask you question after question that how I can get this or how can get that. So these are the few things I would highly recommend you should all do that. And dynamic titles, right? Now, when you create this report, though I think Mahendra didn't mention about this, or I'm just giving you a hint here, that you can create a dynamic title on your report. What does that mean? Let's say on a category, you are putting a filter on the report. The title should come at the top that this report is for category A or category B or category C. Because on Power BI report, the filters come from many places. You have filter pan. When you're clicking on some visual, the filters, the cross filtering happening. So you always get confused at what number or what report I'm seeing. Using these dynamic titles will certainly help you in that what is being filtered. And it is again a DAX measure, right? I gave it, this is an example, sales for the selected value, which is basically the DAX DAX function, and in which I'm selecting region name, right? So the moment I select a particular region name, if I'm using this dynamic title measure, putting on my report at the top, automatically that report region will get filtered, that name will appear there, right? I'll show you again an example of this in my demo. Tooltips, you might have learned this, how to build the tooltip. Again, I'll give you a good use case of that in my demo presentation. Bookmark and selection panes. Again, bookmark are one of the feature which help you not to overcomplicate single page, right? You can click on the buttons, which is created through bookmark, and jump to another page. It's like giving an experience of a website or an app where you have, so many buttons, and buttons take you to a different pages and different story and overall experience of that website. So that sort of a experience you should create. So visualization, where most of the people, fail to create those sort of a visualization, which everyone would like and love to interact with, right? So this was my presentation. The fatal four, so visual should not be overloaded. Inconsistency in the date hierarchy. So hierarchy, whichever hierarchy, it is not just the date hierarchy. When you create hierarchies in the data model, always make sure that it should be, in a right order. The model optimization. Now, this is a bigger subject than just, having a star schema or number of columns. How do you write DAX queries? So there are many things to that. But at this stage, when you're starting learning, or at a stage where you're still in the intermediate kind of a Power BI journey, I would suggest that once you start realizing those problems on your report on performance, then you start getting into these more techniques. Because until you learn DAX at a certain level, you will not be able to achieve the optimization in a meaningful way. right? And then once you create the report, please validate them carefully. Not only validate the numbers, use the filter, slicer, drill through, whatever the feature you would have created on your report. When you click something, the number changes and the change number is being correct or not. That's your responsibility, because overview number, when you see total sales is showing 10 million, but when you click on a category, the number should be 5 million and showing 8 million or something else, right? That is somewhere when you would not have done the proper filtering, proper formula writing, or the model, whatever. It can be any reason for that. So ultimately, the end goal is to give the right number, right context on all your reports, right? So I hope that these steps would help. And let me jump to my demo report. So look at this report. Now, this is the kind of report most of you prepare, right? In a different way. Now, Power BI is, the tool doesn't limit your, creative imagination in terms of the presentation or visualization, right? Now, this is one of the presentation or the visualization I did for one of the client, looking at their existing report and what they wanted to achieve, and then giving my own idea, putting my own idea using those Power BI techniques. So this is like the landing page on their report, right? So any executive, or even for that matter, any report consumer, when he's seeing the report, he understand that what this report want to say. And these are the narrative I was talking about, right? That so far this year we are making 9.6 million profit, which is 25.7% more than the same period last year. And if you see the title July 21, this date is dynamic. When I change it to, let's say, another month, it will dynamically change. So I go to May 21 and you will see the title changes. So user will not be confused when they're looking at it, taking a screenshot or whatever, So it helps them to understand. That is where I said dynamic titles. It can be for anything else. Let's say if I select this particular tooltip, this particular section, I might not have title, but usually the title appears here if I have selected anything. So this is one. Second thing is the tooltip I was mentioning. If I hover around it, so these are my top 5 customer and the others. This is how my 100% revenue of 171 million YTD. Last year was 179. I'm down by 4.5. So this much of information is there, but then the question comes how it is trending. So I hover around it. This is called tooltip, right? It is showing last 6 months. It can be last 12 months or whatever it is. Now, this is the tooltip is being created on another page, and that tooltip feature is being used to hover around it, and you will see the trend, how it is, how the customer is doing. Similar way on other, even on the narrative or any visuals, you can create those tooltips, which will help them to understand more information on that. So when I was talking about the action taking or decision making or what to be done next, so when they say, okay, our revenue is 4.56%, can you highlight what may be the reason? So those tooltip things you can put here as a highlighter, that a particular customer, like in this case, you see Expo 2020 has gone down by 24. It can be anything else, but a meaningful tooltip can give them those reasons which they might further go into detail and see it, right? So as I said, narratives, tooltips, the titles, and then the bookmarks. So here you have in this page, it is not much cluttered, giving you a very brief kind of overview summary, where these are the 4 narratives they always want to hear. This is the visual on the sales. They always wanted to see top 5 customer, how they are doing and what are the others contributing. And then they have more detailed reports. So here is a bookmark which says revenue report. I click on that. Again, if you see, it is not very cluttered. There are 4, 5, 6 visuals, which is giving the information which that business would like to see. On one side, you have these card visuals, which is saying how did we perform versus last year, what are gross profit margins and all that. Then they analyze always the revenue by sector, project, customer. So all these three dimensions are coming here. So in your data set also for the exercise, you have these dimensions. Try to build in a meaningful manner that in a single page, not clutter it, but we can see as much information at the time, not over the information. Right? So these are then you have these, YTD, QTD month. I can click on these and it will jump to the QTD on month report. I go back to the home page again, come to the receivable report, click on receivables, and here you have the receivable report. Now here also, few different techniques being used. So you see here it is showing in 1,000, but the end user, let's say the person who deals with the receivable on day-to-day basis for follow-up, you want to see in full numbers. So I have this where I say show it in units. So now it is showing in full numbers. The number will change in, right? Then you have the customer wise, all the charts being mentioned in your solution, means it is being asked in your solution file. The waterfall chart, you may use the donut or pie chart, and these are the column chart, line chart. So here it is showing DSO, how the DSO is trending. These are the key numbers which you want to show on the card visuals and all that. And there are many, by the way, this report being done in 2022, post that there are many visualization improvement in Power BI, which I have not used in this report, but you can learn about those and can create much more magical report better than this, right? And then the drill through, I think it was not being covered. Let me go through what is drill through. So drill through is basically, so here you have a sector wise report, right? It says residential sector has total receivable of 92 million, which comprises 61.86% of our overall receivable. Now I want to go more into detail, which is, as I said, a person who deals with the receivable on day-to-day basis would like to see those sort of a report. It can be a tabular report, it can be other chart, it can be anything. So drill through is a feature which take you to that detail for this particular sector. So it will take the filter on this page, whatever filter you have. So currently the report is of 31st October 21. The numbers which you are reading here is 92,806. I'll go and drill through, and on drill through, I've given these three different reports, which is further detailed till down of the same number. I go to the receivable analysis report. This is a root cause, or it is rather your tree map visual. So the same number 92,806. When I drill it down to at the invoice level, I can go to, right? Because the way I structured this report at the raw data level from the data sources, I can look for a single invoice. I just don't want to show those data, but you got the point that at the invoice number, I can put a search box here, which particular invoice I'm interested in. Whatever the data I'm bringing in my invoice table, I can show that everything here, right? So as I said, it can be a tabular report as well. I'm not saying every time you create some sort of a chart or visualization, but it can be anything. So drill through is one feature which you should use. If you have not been taught, Mahendra, you mentioned that you have not taught that, but they can learn going through those Microsoft, the reference you have shared with them. Right, so here I'll end my particular presentation here and come back to the screen. If you have any question relating to this or any subject, we have 13 minutes if anyone want to discuss further on this. Mahendra?
Yeah, sorry, I thought you were asking questions to the
So
candidate.
if anyone have question, or you can.
I think Jai Kishan Kataria has a question on how to add visualization to change numbers from base currency from AED to USD or Euro without increasing the data file size.
So to convert AED to USD or Euro currency, you need to have another table, or in your fact table, wherever the numbers are residing, you need to have the conversion rate, right? It will not increase the data loads. I think you guys are, concerned for data load, that having a column is a data load, but the column which is required for any of your calculation requirement, you need to have it. right? I'm saying that column which is not required for any purposes, you remove those columns. And especially the granularity where the data granularity or the column granularity is very high. Now, this term granularity, whether you heard it or not, but how many unique value you have in a column, that is your granularity. So let's say in currency table, you have only three currency, AED, USD, and Euro. This is a very small, it will not have any implication on your data size, right? But you have a narration column. You bring in your narrative or narration, which you write in your, let's say GL or any transaction table, and you bring in for no purpose. For that narration, you can go to system and check it. You're not using those narration column in your Power BI report. So you will never have that narration column, because the reason for that, for each of the column, you are writing different narration. So there is the granularity of that particular column is very heavy. And this is the text column. Compared to number column, the text column have more heavier data size. The other thing which you can do is in your data table, if you have a date column, which is date and time, right? Remove the time aspect of it, change it to the date column. So granularity will decrease to a larger level. Same goes with the decimal numbers. Many a times you have data in 4 decimal, 5 decimal, whatever. Change it to even 2 decimal if you don't require from the point of view of presentation or report, overall report experience, then you don't do that. You put it in numbers. So the granularity will further. So these are few techniques you can use. And then the data model, how it is being, not just, I think I answered that in earlier chat as well, that it is not just 1, 2, 3 aspect of your data. There might be many more. Just goes case to case basis that how the file being built, what the data you are importing, how the model looks like, and what the end goal is. Ultimately, it all boils down to the end goal. If certain thing require for the end goal, you will keep it. Otherwise, you will not keep it. I hope that answers.
I'd like to add something to support Navinji's view over here. See now, Jay, the question on AED to USD. Okay, now typically our financials would have two set of elements, and not everything like here in UAE, AED is pegged against USD. Okay, if it is pegged against USD, you can have a simple formula where you multiply it by 3.6725. Okay. But typically, how it would happen is you will have transaction related information, okay, where each of your transaction would be at a different rate. So ideally, you would typically have a column which would say, okay, at when I entered into transactions on that day, okay, what was the rate based on which this particular sales had happened, okay. But for your items, which are your closing items, like, or we call it as balance sheet item, like your inventories or receivables, at that you will have a fixed constant to convert onto. Okay, so typically I believe you would have those rates that are available in your system, and if it is part of your base file, then you are talking about just a drop down where you just select a drop down when you are saying AD. Everything on the dashboard is appearing at a AD level. When you are talking about USD, everything like you select drop down as USD, and everything would change to that basis. Unless, Jay, your question was more around like adding manual calculations, which also is possible, which Navinji covered, I think.
Would it be possible just to do a measure on currencies where we just say AED is like converted using that conversion table?
So
And
a
that
single
would change all the
trade, yeah,
visualizations.
yeah. So
Can
we
be
learned
done, yes.
call that is possible. So in Power Query, we had learned column, right? Adding column in Power Query. So you can add a column where you can add that particular rate and you can convert it as well. But again, I would go back to the point that I said. Typically, each transaction would have a corresponding rate. If you just want to do it, you can add a column as well, or you can use a DAX measure also for multiplying this particular column to arrive at those rates. But I would still go back to the same point. Each of your transactions would have had different rate,
Yeah.
unless we're talking about just a simple pegged currency conversions, which is AED to USD.
So even just to add that, Jay, what you ask is a measure can be done. So you will have a currency table with the
Yep.
date column in it and the currency rate. Let's say euro, you are doing it, right? So from January to whatever period you have.
Yep.
And then in Power BI DAX measure, you can use it, connecting the date table to the transaction date table, both of them, and then a little typical SumX kind of a formula. But yes, it is, and that is much more better approach than creating a column, multiplying it. Yes, if it is a data size is small, it doesn't matter. Even if you do it in Power Query, or for that matter, even on the data model as a calculated column. Now, calculated column versus measure, which is a big subject, Power BI metrics go to. People will talk about it, but certainly calculated columns are not good. But many times, some for small tasks, you require those columns. So at this stage of your journey, I believe if you are finding it difficult to create a measure, I would say, okay, create, but understand it and then slowly figure it out that how I can convert it into a DAX measure, right? It should not be a showstopper. I know many of you guys do some reports on the fly and you struggle to get the right kind of whatever easy at that point in time, do it, but don't make it a practice and later on find out the way to do the measure for the same calculated.
Thank you.
One final thing I wanted to add too was please download the data sets and the questions, because the idea of the next session is collaborative learning, which means that all of you can come up with a solution in which we would allow, let's say question one person can come in and share the solution, question two other person can come in, and we have already solution for it. We will also show you these are some of the best practices in the solution. But the idea of this particular type of session, as Jay mentioned at the beginning, is more collaborative learning, where all of us learn by doing rather than just a monologue where we say, okay, this is how we have to do. It's more around collaborative learning where everyone can come up with a solution, and then like they can showcase and we can add on to it. So I'll just share the link once again for the data set as well as the question. We would request you to download the same.
So I'll cover this one question, Mahendra. Kunjan asked, in financial modeling, we have concept of input, model, and outputs. How can this concept be replicated in Power BI to have proper structure relationships, including while creating tables to avoid redundancy? Now, very pertinent question, being all of you chartered accountant and your responsibility to create financial statement. And it is not easy, Kunjan, let me tell you, because the report format, which we usually have for the MIS report or even IFRS report, you need to create that report first or that format as a table in Power BI, right? And then a lot of DAX measures that what to be filtered with what, your chart of account grouping, and model the relationship between the GL table, the fact table, and the chart of account table and other dimensions table. And with that report structure. So these are the like kind of things which you require as an input. And then later on, a lot of DAX measures to arrive those right kind of a report, because the gross total or subtotal and the totals you cannot get directly in that report format. So for that, you will require those sort of a DAX measure to play that magic, to do that magic and create the. I think I didn't present that. Maybe in the next session, I'll present a tabular financial report in Power BI, which you can think of creating in. It would require a lot of
Thank you.
effort, to be honest.
Thank
Someone
you,
asked about
Naveen.
someone
Thank you,
asked
Manish.
about SharePoint link. SharePoint. How do you connect with the? So that is simple. You go to the Get Data web connector and bring that your SharePoint link, paste it in that web link, and it will show up. It will ask for certainly the same user ID and password which you are authenticated for, and you will be able to connect. Yeah, so we are very much in time. Mahendra, anything else?
No, I think we are good. Maybe Amit, if you are here, otherwise we can close in. I am not sure.
Yeah, I
Amit.
think Mahendra, Amit is
Yeah,
not
Uga is here. Okay,
available.
yeah.
Yes. Yes, if it is completed, then I think we can close. Anything Jay is available or still?
Good to see you, Uga.
Hi, sir. How are you?
Very
Good
well, thank you.
session.
Thank you.
In between, I was driving, so that's why I connected back again.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
I
much.
think
PCI once
formally
again.
we
Thank you,
can
Mahendra,
close it.
for the learning or the teaching you are doing for the community. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Thank
Wishing
you.
good
Thank
vibes
you,
to
Naveen.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.